Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ask Christa, where I answer listener questions about business challenges and workplace issues. I'm Christa Dhimo, and I offer my show as a free resource to help people get through common day-to-day issues at work. I do this as a commitment to my listeners and, of course, the listener questions, but you know how it helps if you like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, and I thank you for the support. This is episode 72, which is the last episode in season 6 focused on dealing with bad bosses. But don't worry, with the number of questions I received lately all about the topic of dealing with bad bosses, I've decided to extend this theme into season 7, which starts next week. Today's episode is about how to manage a situation when your boss puts you down and belittles you. This has unfortunately become a more prevalent behavior in recent years, especially during high-stress times and in the absence of appropriate management training to help managers deal with their stress so they aren't taking it out on their employees. Here's the listener question. I recently got reorged to work for a boss who put people down and then he pretends it's just a joke. He never gets in trouble for it. He recently belittled and embarrassed me in front of the team by saying that my accent drives him crazy because he can't understand what I rattle on about half the time, and that's a direct quote. He actually said, rattle on about. I was very embarrassed, but also infuriated. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, but I've been living in Brooklyn and working in Manhattan for over 15 years. If I ever spoke so quickly that someone couldn't understand me, they simply asked me to slow down, and I did. No insults, no unprofessional behavior, no problems. And Atlanta doesn't have such a thick accent, so it felt like he was making fun of people from the South more than my accent. I had a good meeting with my mentor yesterday and we have a plan, but I stumbled upon your show and thought to send in a note about this too. What advice do you have for others who have a boss who puts them down? And thank you. That's a great question. I've received a lot of questions asking me how to manage a boss who bullies and demeans and belittles others. And it's particularly hard when they fall back on this feeble attempt to retreat from accountability and say, it was just a joke. And then usually they follow up with another insult. Don't you have a sense of humor? I do want to also point out that episode 63 from this season focuses on a listener question about how to help a teammate when they observe the boss belittling another teammate. In that episode, I talk about policies, laws, ways to report, and use of hotlines. I also provide resources for situations where the company is small and or doesn't have those resources available. And in season 2, episode 17, I talk about how to manage it when a boss displays bad behavior. The episode focuses on toxic workplaces and how to go to a trusted resource for assistance and then various other resources to consider. So I'm going to post those in the show notes. In addition, our listener describes a belittling situation, but many of the questions I've received about bad boss behavior is downright abusive. Abuse is about power dynamics. By pushing people down and keeping them there, the dominant person, the one with perceived or actual power, often considered the abuser in the situations, they not only manage to maintain control, but somehow enable fealty and loyalty and conformity when the people experiencing the power dynamic and control need some relief. Now, in our listener's case, they're not describing coercive behavior where a listener feels they have to suddenly suck up to or conform to everything the boss wants. But my guess is there's at least one person in that room thinking, uh-oh, how do I suck up to the boss so he doesn't do that to me? Strictly speaking, from a business theory perspective, the workplace is designed to align resources and then allocate and utilize them in ways possible to get the work done. This traditional model follows a design where the boss is accountable for the employees, from their performance to their development and so forth. It also means the boss is very literally in control of what can make an employee's life good or bad, from allocation and workload to development opportunities, and from rewards and recognition to the basics of getting paid. That means there is a power dynamic that, if not managed within a framework of respect and dignity, can lead to a style of coercion, unhealthy power dynamics, and yes, mental and emotional abuse. About 10 years ago, we saw a spike in naming and then rooting out top leaders of large companies and organizations who very clearly overstepped the lines of their power, exploiting the dynamics in order to coerce employees into doing, saying, or believing in things they otherwise wouldn't do, say, or believe. I'm going to include episode 63 again and 17 in the show notes so you can learn about key actions to take if you feel you're in an abusive and therefore unethical or policy-breaking relationship with your boss. For this episode, I'm going to focus on steps you can take to give yourself some cognitive and emotional relief and create some space. Because if the boss's defense for his bad behavior is how you have a flawed sense of humor, you're not going to get far. First, and as our listener has done, know your resources. Talk to a trusted partner or coworker or mentor or friend and be very explicit with what you probably need from them. Just to listen. This is especially important if you've been in an environment where, for a prolonged time, you've been told you're the one with the problem if you cannot accept an insult or display outward hostility laced with personal insults, as our listener described. It will be important for you to just talk it out, and so many people will want to share their opinion on the matter, cloaked in the style of offering advice. Now's not the time for advice, though. Now's the time to talk, because you probably haven't done that yet. Just talk. Say what you've experienced out loud. Make it real, because it's not you and your flawed sense of humor. If this is what you're hearing from your boss, insults, put-downs, demeaning language, that's not about humor. That's about power, and it's inappropriate in the workplace. Next, as I always say, read up on your policies. Some companies don't follow or care about their own policies. I realize that, but they're usually the basis of litigation, those policies. And I'll say this, over the last 7 or 8 years, there have been a lot of employment lawyers represented employees more than ever before. And guess what they work into their cases? Yeah, the policies. Then consider what you may need. Do you want advice? If so, I recommend being very specific and thoughtful about where you go for advice. Be sure it's someone who understands the workings of an organization such that they aren't telling you how to manage your boss before they're telling you how to understand your environment. Every workplace is different, and for our listener, they're in a workplace that has allowed and enabled a manager to behave inappropriately and in a way that will absolutely have an effect on performance, lowering the team's performance. Now, we don't know if something is happening in the background or what the context is for this manager to be in the position that he is in at this time, but there are environments that look the other way, and there are CEOs who behave that way, and there are people who do not get promoted unless they can take an insult. So as you seek advice, think about what kind of advice you need. If you don't, then you'll get opinions, not advice. Opinions like, I think you should just get another job, even if that's not practical or achievable for you. Opinions like, just ignore him. He'll eventually move on or won't care anymore. Which tells you to expend extra energy pretending something that bothers you doesn't exist. Or how about this one? Try to see things from his way. Maybe he's really trying to be funny, which, don't even get me started. Seek out advice and be specific both in terms of where you go, who you ask, and what kind of advice you need. If it's to go beyond being an opinion, it has to be rooted in reality, it has to be practical, and it has to be in service to you. And it has to be constructive and offer a constructive path forward. For your resources located in the show notes, I've started with an excellent video from Jennifer Brick. It's from June 2025, and it's called How to Deal with a Toxic Boss When You Can't Quit. Oh my goodness, watch this video. She's so relatable and so practical, and you will love this video, and I recommend you follow her channel as part of your resource bin so you can tune into her content when needed. She starts with 3 caveats to consider so you can adjust her advice, not her opinions, but her advice for what will help you the most. The second resource is a TEDx talk from Natalie Parker. It just dropped a week ago, and it's called How to Handle a Bad Boss. And yeah, this is another one. Watch it. She describes what I know a lot of you can relate to. Micromanaging behaviors, control issues, even questioning whether someone can address a family emergency without being challenged about who'll be doing your work. Last is an excellent read from Manfred Fr. Katz de Vries. It's on the NCED Knowledge site. It's an article called How to Handle a Toxic Boss. The 5 steps that he provides may not be practical for most, but the way Professor Katz de Vries describes the environment of a toxic boss and the resources that he offers are often just what we need to reinflate ourselves, especially if we're in an environment where we feel put down and demeaned. And of course, you'll see episode 63 and episode 17 in the show notes as well. And there it is, episode 72 from season 6, focused on dealing with bad bosses. Like and subscribe here, but also go to my site and send in your question. It's askchrista.com. That's Christa with a CH. You'll also see answers to other questions listed by category and season, and every season has a theme. As always, thank you for your support. And remember, if you have a business challenge or workplace issue, ask Christa.